So, let's start again. I'm Alan. Good evening. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces and some faces which I've never seen before. And one face in particular which was much hairier the last time I've seen it. But anyway. I'm technical lead at 5 Games, and as some of you might know, we're working on our first title, Time Heist, which is a 2D point-and-click adventure game. Now, this you wouldn't know, and please, Unity guys, maybe if you could cover your ears right now. Unity, we're working on this project in Unity, but initially it was not intended to be developed in Unity. Actually, initially, Time Heist wasn't even conceptualized as a 2D point-and-click adventure game. It was an isometric adventure game, more similar to the likes of the early Fallout games, Fallout 1 and 2. So I had actually already done some work on a custom-built isometric world engine using C++, OpenGL, and SDL. But eventually we decided to apply for the Malta Unity Games Fund, and the mentors commissioned by the fund, we talked to them about our idea, and they suggested that we do away with the custom engine and use a third-party engine. So I was pretty bummed by them because I had done lots of work on this other engine, and it was interesting. But you know, I couldn't really kind of disregard the advice given to me by experienced developers. So that night I called up a meeting between the team members, and I was hoping to get kind of some support and get cheered on and, you know, do this thing and to do the engine you are working on. And instead I got a reaction which was totally different, and they said, listen, we don't really like the isometric idea anyway, we would like to do something more traditional 2D point and click. So I was left alone in a corner sulking and left with this decision, okay, should I create my own 2D point-and-click game engine, or should I go to the other end of the spectrum and use an existing tool such as AGS, Adventure Game Studio, which is specifically designed for people to build 2D point-and-click adventure games with. So on one end of the spectrum, it's harder, but I have much more flexibility. On the other end, it's much easier, but I'm restricted to the set of functionality which is offered by the tool. So eventually I decided to take the middle road and use a third-party engine, on top of which I will build my own 2D point-and-click game engine, game framework. I tried a couple of third-party engines and for a number of reasons chose to work with Unity. For a number of reasons, primary of which was that Unity offered the learning curve I was most comfortable with. And since almost 2 years I've been working with Unity. I've been wanting to get into game development way longer than that, ever since I was yay high and this wide, which was maybe when I was 4 years old. But when I started getting serious about game development, there was one thing which kind of took me by surprise. One thing which I discovered about myself which shocked me to a certain point. And that is that I'm pretty useless as a game developer. And I hate to break it to you, but probably this is the case for many of you in this room. But I digress. I'll talk about myself, and I'll bring myself as an example. Video games in general marry together a very diverse set of disciplines and skills. And you know, I can't draw if my life depended on it. I can't do creative writing. I could try, but all the characters would be completely one-dimensional, and the narrative would be completely boring and unoriginal and everything. I can't make music. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I'm one of those guys who, as soon as I start up a new game, go to the audio settings, crank down the music volume completely, and you know, I can't do music. I can't appreciate with music. I can't. But there's one very specific thing I can do, or at least I'd like to think that I can do. And I can code. So this is why 5 1/4 Games isn't just me. I'm not the only person in the team. We're a team of around 10 individuals, between character artists and environment artists, and a script writer and an audio guy, and all sorts of skills. But the thing about 5 1/4 Games is that we all work in our own free time. We all have our own full-time jobs. And so we work, we collaborate online a lot, and we seldom meet in a single office environment. So I end up having to get all these emails from all these other team members with all this kind of digitized assets. And it's up to me as the technical guy, the guy who is using Unity, to put everything together in Unity. And this is what I'd like to talk to you about in the few minutes which remain. So, as such, what is the most obvious thing you would need to populate a 2D point-and-click adventure game? And that would be the characters and the environments. So, what we do to deal with these is to pull these into the game is first, and this always happens like this. You'll see this happening throughout. Everything starts at the game designer's desk. So the game designer would decide which characters are to be included in the game and how should they look, and if he should be tall or bald or bearded or whatever, and which scenes we need. For example, we need this particular scene from this particular angle containing these particular objects and stuff. We would provide, the game design team would then provide these specifications to the artists, and in the case of the character artists, they would provide us with provide me with a series of frames, each series representing a different character animation. The environment artist would provide me with a Photoshop document for each particular scene, and each Photoshop document would be layered appropriately. Then I would take these digitized visual assets, and in the case of the characters, I would use an asset store plugin called 2D Toolkit, and I would use the sprite component and the sprite animator component to animate each of the, first of all, to make the character image show. Then to flip through each frame of the character animation to make the character appear as if he's walking or idling or whatnot. And then I would use my own custom components and game objects to make the character do all kinds of nifty stuff, such as move from one place to another while playing the correct animation, and scale differently and change speed so as to kind of provide the illusion of depth. As far as the scenes are concerned, what I would do is I would use 2D Toolkit and another asset from the asset store. The asset store is a really great resource in Unity. This other asset is PSD2K2D, and what it does is it loads the PSD document into Unity and kind of explodes the layers one in front of another. So I would ask the environment artist to layer the scene in such a way that, for example, I can slide a character behind this particular bench which is in the scene. So the plugin will take care of exploding the bench in front of the background of the scene, and I would be able, through my custom scripts, to slide the character behind this particular desk, so as to continue giving the illusion of depth. But, you know, right now we've got a game world with characters and scenes, and these characters are running around doing, you know, very much nothing. So essentially we've got a 2D version of The Sims, which is quite a pointless game in my opinion, but anyway. So what else do we need to make this, to turn this from a 2D version of The Sims into a 2D point-and-click adventure? And that is the narrative, which is a less obvious ingredient in 2D point-and-click adventure games, but it's really, really important. So how do we digitize a narrative, a non-linear narrative, and pull it into the game? Well, again, the process starts from the game designer's desk. The game designer would come up with the plot, come up with the overall arcing story, and provide this specification to the scriptwriter. The scriptwriter, in our case, would use an in-house tool, which I developed, which allows him to create a sort of connected graph, which represents a set of non-linear conversations. A conversation which branches not only when the player makes a particular choice, but also branches based on the current state of the game, for example. The output of this tool would be a really complex XML file, which the scriptwriter would then send to me, and I'll push this XML file into Unity, where I have my own custom-built script engine, which would use this script file as input and run through the various conversations in the script file. And by doing so, it will kind of instruct the right characters to speak out the right lines of dialogue at the right point in time. And for example, do much more than that. Add something to your inventory when you pick up the glass, for example, or remove something from the inventory when I toss the glass at somebody in the audience, and stuff like that. And then there's the last component which I will be talking about tonight, which is the music. We need to digitize the music and pull it into the game. Again, the process starts at the desk of the game designer, who would decide which mood he would like to set in a particular scene and which sound effects he will need. We send the specification to the books, to the audio guy, who uses his synth and recording equipment to produce the music tracks and the various sound effects we would need. He would then send me the digitized audio files, which I would then put into Unity and use various components which come with Unity, such as the audio listener and audio source, as well as other custom-built components which would do all kinds of stuff, such as play, stop or pause and swap music tracks, and even play sound effects on cue or seemingly at random. So those are the kind of processes I will be going through in this presentation. But this brings me back to the point I made, where I'm quite a useless game developer on my own. But through this process we've adopted, we can use this process to bring together disparate skill sets and disparate results into one single focal point. It's like different threads, tying them up in a single knot. And this is why I think Unity is such an aptly named engine, an aptly named tool, because it brings together all these different skill sets and melds them into one focal point, which is the game. And I'd like to really thank the people who have been working on the project for providing us with such a great tool, which has made something which was previously much more difficult possible. So thank you very much.